Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another episode of Total Breakdown. I've got a bit of a multi-part set coming at you, starting with today's battle between the Beastmen of Scribble, sorry if I mispronounced that, and the Dark Elves of John Ton. This was a part of the King's Cup Master of Warhammer tournament, and is the first game in a set. Also, just want to remind you that John Ton is a YouTuber as well, and if you like what you see, make sure you check him out by following the link in the description down below. We begin, as always, with talk of composition and deployment, and as you can see, the Beastmen are trying something pretty wild in this one. They've got a Beast Lord in charge atop a chariot, and off to the side, a Bray Shaman of Wild atop a chariot as well, and take a look at the spells that he's brought to the field. Up front here, we've got 3 units of Senegor with throwing axes. These guys are armor-piercing with their missiles. Vanguard deployed to push forward, get some early damage in, and they will do well as anti-air support against the inevitable Malekith atop Seraphon. Back here, the front lines, if we can call them that, consist of 2 units of Bestigor Herd and the Ungor Spearman Herd, and right behind them we have the Ungor Spearman Herd here, and this unit of Minotaurs with great weapons. So lots of anti-large, a little bit of anti-large and armor-piercing capabilities here, and again, they're all working together to protect the Beast Lord or push forward and entangle enemy units, so that this unit of Razorgore Chariot over here can push out for flanking opportunities and rear charges, and do a great deal of anti-infantry and armor-piercing damage, of course. To the left, you can see we've got a Cygor on the field, able to toss rocks right from the start and do a great deal of hurt in melee as well if necessary. And then the Ungor Spearman Herd here, protecting that Cygor, making sure that if anything large comes chasing after it, it'll be relatively safe. Over here, the Bray Shaman of Wild is also protected by the Ungor Spearman Herd, and again, these guys have shields as well, and using shields is not a bad idea in case the Dark Elves bring some ranged. On the other side of the field, we do in fact have Malekith in charge atop Seraphon, just flying over top over here. The front line is this alternating line of Hargoneth Executioners and the Dread Spears. So a little bit of anti-large there in case there are any Minotaurs or anything like that. Right behind the front lines, we have 2 units of Blackguard of Naggarond on either end. Again, very helpful, very useful against enemy large units. Again, almost inevitable with Beastmen. And then in the center, some Witch Elves able to dive in and just inflict that madness of Cain and take advantage of Murderous Mastery to provide that extra hurt. We've got 2 units of Dark Shards with shields as well. Shields are a good idea, staying somewhat safe or safer in melee, I should say, and safe from Ungor Raiders firing away. And at the back, some Dread Spears on either end as well, capped off with some Dread Spears in case any clever large maneuvers come in from the sides. And then all the way at the back over here, we do have some Dark Riders with shields as well, hoping to, I think, chase after any enemy range support, just shut down Ungor Raiders, maybe chase after chariots or anything of the sort. So that's what the composition is looking like, but let's take a look at how this all breaks down. More or less right away, you'll see we have the Senegor with their throwing axes creeping forward, hoping to get some early damage in, and of course the Cygor as well, picking up rocks and starting to toss them more or less immediately, hoping to get some hurt in before these lines meet, and the Dark Elves are pushing forward to meet this Vanguard threat, and you'll see the Hargoneth Executioners already taking a great deal of hurt without one rock, and in come the Senegor as well, just tossing some axes, doing a little bit of hurt here and there, as Malekith wisely pulled back here into safety, away from the range of the Senegor, and off to the side over here, you'll see to the right of the Beastmen, another Cygor is being brought to the field. So we're going to have artillery pieces on either end of the Beastmen camp, so firing in from both sides. Great move that makes it very difficult for the Dark Elves to close down all of the artillery support, and look at how much work is being done. Focusing in on the Blackguard of Naggarond on the left here, and on the Hargoneth Executioners on the right here. So just rocks being tossed in, the Senegor here as well, throwing their axes, getting a little bit of hurt here and there, getting rid of the Blackguard of Naggarond as they will be a threat to the Cygor, and then just splitting up as well, so they're not able to all get shut down by one lone unit giving chase. And again, those rocks just being tossed around, doing a lot of work, and take a look at how much hurt the Dark Elves have already taken before they're able to close this gap here. And again, we're just focusing in on some Dread Spears as well. Unfortunately, they do have silver shields, so not the best pick there, but over here, just doing a little bit of damage as well, and it's really about those rocks coming in from the Cygor. These Hargoneth Executioners have taken a beating. The Dark Shards over here as well have sort of been the result of collateral damage. They've been falling apart. Off to the side here, these Dark Riders with shields are giving chase to some of these Senegor with throwing axes, but the Senegor will be fine. They'll be able to keep a distance, and despite the shields, they'll still get some damage in, especially if the Dark Riders here decide to show their backs to those axes, of course. Malekith, meanwhile, creeping forward, looking for an opportunity to dive in, looking for where he can get involved. But of course, it's pretty risky because there are the spears over here as well, so he's not able to just push in to the Cygor, decides instead to dive into the Bray Shaman of Wild and the Beast Lord here, but that's not a good call at all. You can see right away we've got the Minotaurs with great weapons responding, and we've got the Ungor Spearman herd right here. They're able to respond as well, so not a good call whatsoever. And take a look at the swarm as it comes through the Centaur with throwing axes as well, able to provide some support, and you can see Malekith tries to stay alive, pops Stand Your Ground to help his melee defense, and also uses Soul Stealer on this little clump here, trying to get to the air. Now seeing he has made a huge mistake, and over here you'll see the Razorgore Chariot now pummeling through this little front line here, pushing through some of these Dark Shards, and a great move over here, baiting these Dark Riders with shields over, and the Ungor Spearman herd over here just pushing in as well. So a wonderful move there. The Razorgore Chariot just move out of the way, and in come the spears, poking and prodding at the Dark Riders with shields, getting those guys to fall apart pretty quickly. As you can see, they're already falling apart, and over here Malekith does pop his breath, doing a lot of damage to the Bestigor herd over here. Wonderful use of the breath, great angle there, right from this side, and these guys have routed, shattered, dropped their flags, and leave. So great work there. Now the Centaur with throwing axes, tossing those axes at Malekith. Once again, he's way too close, so he's able to take a lot of damage there, and you'll see Murderous Prowess does get activated. In comes Malekith as well, trying to help turn the tide on the left flank over here, because they are doing quite well. The Ungor Spearman herd are falling away, the Razorgore Chariot forced to pull back, the Centaur with throwing axes, though, looking again for an opportunity to open shots at Malekith, no doubt. While on the right, you'll see we have the Minotaurs with great weapons having somewhat of a field day against the Blackguard of Naggarond here. They're being kept occupied to a degree by the Ungor Spearman herd. Again, the Blackguard of Naggarond will be doing quite well in this situation, but some cycle charging from these Minotaurs, and the Blackguard of Naggarond will find themselves in a rough spot. Over here, you'll see the Witch Elves have managed to get the Beast Lord enraged, rampaging now, stuck in the melee situation. Great call there. Again, he's on a chariot, so you want to try and minimize his movement and keep him locked in combat. And the Cygor over here, between being a summon and all the focus and attention it's getting in terms of the damage being put on it, is dropping its health quite a bit. But the Cygor over here, still very much willing to fight, still at full health, and still has half ammo left, and already killed 72 Dark Elves. So great work there with the Cygors on either end, and Malekith once again in the air, looking for a place to drop in, looking where he might be able to provide some assistance and dive in. Maybe a good idea to chase after the Bray Shaman of Wild here, but the Bray Shaman's been used up more or less already in terms of magical capabilities, but you obviously don't want that chariot on the field, and meanwhile opting to use his breath down here on the Minotaurs, and that is a good call. These guys are pretty well clumped up, and it's going to do a fair bit of damage there. You can see it drops about half of their health, drops them to just below half as a result, and the Cygor off to the side, they're still tossing rocks, still trying to get some damage in there. The Minotaurs here move away from the Blackguard of Naggarond. Not a bad call. You don't want to stay in prolonged combat, as I mentioned earlier. You want to cycle charge, and now Malekith chasing after the Beast Lord over here, but the Centaur with throwing axes push in, and that's of course a threat, so Malekith has to pull away and move elsewhere and find some other threat to take care of. Maybe go after the Razorgore Chariot here and keep those guys from moving around and mowing down infantry. So you'll see he does push in, and we've got the Dread Spears and the Blackguard of Naggarond and the Hargoneth Executioners as well, just focusing in on the Razorgore Chariot. We've got some range support coming in as well from the Dark Shards, but of course, being a chariot, it's able to just roll away. There's no cavalry left on the field here. Malekith was the only person who could maybe pin that unit in place, but now Malekith decides to turn around and go chasing after, I think, the Bray Shaman of Wild, and once again decides to stop, turn around, and pops his breath again on the Bestigor herd. And I don't know if this second one was the best call. There are some better clumps being provided here. Some of these Ungor Spearman herd might have been a better target, or maybe even focusing in on some of these Centaur with throwing axes. The Bestigor were already pretty badly damaged, so I don't know if they really needed to double down with the breath there. But nonetheless, the Bestigor herd obviously not happy about that breath, so routing, deciding to give up on the fight here. And meanwhile, you'll see we have the Dark Shards firing away at the Bray Shaman of the Wild, again using Jagged Dagger to try and bring some more magic to the field. And in comes a charge right into the Centaur throwing axes, using Soul Stealer once again as well, just to replenish some of those hit points. Great call there, great move there, popping Stand Your Ground as well, trying to keep these guys in the fight, because there's a lot left from the Beastmen here. That Cygor still throwing rocks, 106 kills now, still targeting various units, trying to get some hurt in wherever necessary, dropping morale, dropping health, and you'll see another hit comes in, just completely shattering the Hargoneth Executioners here. And Malekith once more looking for where he can get involved, but why not the Cygor itself? Instead opting to dive into the Ungor Spearman herd over here, keep the Cygor busy, keep it occupied, prevent it from firing away, and unfortunately that's just simply not being done here. And you'll see the Ungor Spearman herd swarming these little units here. All that's left of them, another shot from the Cygor, just oh, poor guys there. Gaze of Malice as well being used here just to help against the Ungor Spearman herd, but unfortunately that's far too little, far too late. Malekith has been so preoccupied with figuring out where to go that he ended up not going anywhere. Ends up bogged down over here, fully surrounded. We've got some Senegor with throwing axes, we've got Minotaurs with great weapons. Malekith is not having a good time. He's willing to drop his flag and go back home to mommy. A Pyrrhic victory for the Beastmen. Now, this must have been an extremely frustrating battle for the Dark Elves and their commander, John Tonn. They were able to close the gap, but by the time they did, the army was mostly in shambles, and there was little that could have been done to recover. The Beastmen were made to work hard for their victory, but at the end of the day, they softened the Dark Elves up before lines met, and that was enough to set things in their favor early on. Malekith's indecision certainly didn't help the Dark Elves either, and though he killed about 80 individuals, there's a lot more Malekith could have done outside of just killing people. Tune in tomorrow to see what the next match in this series had to offer and how the generals adapted based on this first game. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content and keep sending in those battle replays. I think it's one of the best ways to learn, and it's great to see some interesting approaches like we saw here. Nice way to see some new tactics from great battles in the community. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.